Hi, I'm Erika Huda. Today I'm going to talk about how you can help your child improve his intelligence and also his self-image based on the knowledge of neuroplasticity. The more you know how the brain works, the more you can help your children develop their skills and build their self-confidence. And in the long run, you will also change your own intelligence and your own self-confidence. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change and adapt to its environment. And we didn't realize how much it could change until recently. There's been a couple of operations that's been done on people that's been quite miraculous. The first person I want to show you is someone called Jodie Miller. She finished school with straight A's. She's busy studying at a college, and she received numerous scholarships. And the other person that I want to show you is Christina Sandhouse. She did a degree in speech pathology and then got her master's degree. She did all of this in 5 years, 3 years her bachelor's and 2 years her master's. What is interesting about these two is when they were younger, they had so many epileptic seizures they couldn't function properly. And they had to have a very big operation done on them. Half of their brain had to be removed, and at the age of about 4 or 5. If you think about how the brain works, we all know that the right-hand side operates the left-hand side, and the left-hand side operates the right-hand side. So logically, it would say if your left-hand side has been removed, it should be named on the right-hand side. And if you go and have a look at the video clips of Jodie Miller, it's on YouTube. There are lots of video clips on her. It's really great to see. I recommend you go and watch it. They say that she walked within 10 days after the operation, which is very, very miraculous. It means the brain took over parts that was removed or damaged and adapted to its environment. The person who did the operation is someone called Ben Carlson. And I really like his story, and he's sort of the basis of what I'm going to talk about today. When he was younger, he had a very troubled childhood, and he didn't do well at school. He was a school dropout. Then one day his mom said, "We have to make a change. We're going to take away the TV, and we're going to start reading books, and you have to write a book report for me twice a week." He said if it wasn't for his mother, he wouldn't be where he was today. And that is what I would like to tell you is, you have a big influence on your child's intelligence, on his self-image. It doesn't matter what the world out there tells you. I can tell you this is how the brain works, and you can teach this to your child, and you can build his self-confidence, and you can put him in a better position tomorrow compared to where he is today. So many people talk about different study styles. They talk about different schooling approaches. Some people put the kids in school, some homeschool, some unschool. We homeschooled our 4 children. My eldest is 17 at the moment, and my youngest is 12. My eldest wrote her IGCSEs last year. She wrote 7 subjects, and she got an average of, an IGCSE is equivalent to grade 11, and Cambridge is supposed to be one of the most stringent exams available in our country. She got an average of 94%, and she was the highest scoring student in the country for chemistry, physics, and Afrikaans. She got these results based on her knowledge of neuroplasticity, and you can teach this knowledge to your children as well, irrespective of where they are, if they're in a school or in their home, or what your teaching approach is. If you understand what you're doing, then you can adapt your environment to teach your children effectively and help them use their brains effectively. So let's talk about neuroplasticity. This person here is called Eric Kindell. He's a Nobel Prize winner, and he discovered what memories are, where they are formed in the brain. So if we have a look at the brain has neurons. We're all born with about 100 billion neurons. And between these neurons, we have these connections. And these connections are just protein molecules. But these protein molecules that are connected to make these dendrites. So they're your memories. And a memory is anything that you know and understand, being able to stand, being able to walk, those are all memories that were formed somewhere in your life. If we have a look at what the brain looks like when you're born, you will see you're born with an empty slate. Okay, let me bring this one closer, it's not so clear, right? We are born with an empty slate on this side, and then as we grow and develop, we form more memories, and these memories are stored into our brains and in forms of branches like this. What this means is that everything that you know, knowing how to ride a bike, knowing how to draw or paint or do sport, had to be learned somewhere in life. It's not a genetic thing. Have you been exposed to it, and did you get positive feedback? This has quite a significant result for us. If we look at, I just want to find a picture at the different stages of the brain. Okay, let me bring this one closer as well. Like this. Right. All right. Here you can see the brain has a lot of connections, and then at the age of 14, the brain starts pruning. Neuroscientists talk about what if you don't use, you lose. From birth to about age 13, your brain is like a sponge. It can learn anything it's been exposed to. So if you've been exposed to sport, you will be good at sport. If you've been exposed to art, you will get good at art. If you've been exposed to music, you will get good at music. And then at the age when children become teenagers, the brain starts specializing. It becomes an expert in something. So it prunes the things that it never used, and it becomes an expert in what it's been exposed to. So if you've been doing sport your whole life, at this age you're going to start becoming an expert in sport. Or if you've been exposed to music, you'll become an expert in music, or in dancing, or in math, or in physics. You get the picture. So we have been taught to believe that you're either born with a mathematical brain or an artistic brain, and this findings that I've shown you here proves that theory wrong. Your child can be good at whatever you're exposing to. Okay. So, what is learning? When we talk about learning, we think learning has something to do with reading books and memorizing things, and that is not what learning is. What you're seeing here is something called rote learning, which is actually very bad for the brain. Rote learning is memorizing facts without really understanding why you should learn these facts. And in school, we've come from a background where we have been taught that this is what learning is. And unfortunately, we're teaching those bad techniques to our children, and they have the same problems that we experience in school. So everything you know, everything that you've experienced is based on your past experiences, what people have told you, how you grew up. So your truth is based on your neural network that has been built. And because we as human beings didn't understand the brain, we have been told a lot of lies, not on purpose, it's just we didn't know anything better. But science has taught us now many things that debunk myths we used to believe. And now we're sitting with this flawed system, and we have to try and give our children a better future. We are stuck in the past with a neural network, and our children, we have to build a neural network for our children that is different to what we're used to. Neuroplasticity is a wonderful thing. The brain can adapt and change, but it's a lot of hard work, so the brain doesn't like change. So when I tell you things that is totally different to your internal network, it feels extremely uncomfortable, and the first thought that comes to your mind is, oh, I don't believe this, I can't handle this is not true. And I would like you to encourage you to look beyond that and say, right, I believe this research has been done on many people, and it's not just based on an opinion. The information I'm giving you today is based on what universities have found. It's not based on an opinion, it's not based on experiences, it's based on what works for everybody. So the research has been done on an average of 1,000 people, and then data has been taken up from that, and we can make conclusions on the research done. So whenever you feel uncomfortable with what I'm saying, just remember your past is a neural network that has been established for many, many, many years into your mind. And now I'm shaking it. I'm confronting it. And you have to try and walk past that discomfort. And remember, whatever you're learning here, you can apply to your children's future. You can change their neural network. And with this information I'm giving you today, you're busy building neural networks now. While I'm talking, protein molecules are forming. And your brain is looking different than it did half an hour ago. The more you learn about neuroplasticity, the more your thinking is going to change. And the person you are today is not going to be the same one in a year's time. So it does take time, but walk through it. Don't be discouraged. Just carry on. The brain can change, and you will have a different outlook. So, one problem with having a flawed system is when I speak to many mothers, I see the damage that our flawed educational system has done on people because they do not believe in themselves. They have a wrong belief system about their capabilities. They have a fear of failure. Most people do not like maths and science because we had a really bad way of teaching maths and science. I talk about maths and science because that's the big struggle point for many parents. They're okay with biology and history and art. Those things they can handle. With maths and science, whenever I speak about it, I just smell fear. And so I want to take that fear away. So it's just learning. Your brain doesn't know the difference between learning art, music, biology or science. To the brain, it's just forming protein molecules. It doesn't know this is a math protein molecule, so I can't form it. It just forms any memory it's been exposed to. So we can change our thought patterns about certain subjects you have a fear about. The nice thing about growing up with a flawed educational system is we know something is wrong. And the reason you're watching this video is you want to make a change. And we have decided we don't want to give our children the same experiences we had. We are going to make a difference. And this determination is going to help you make a difference permanently in your child's future. So, the most important thing, and I got this from Susan Greenfield, who is also a neuroscientist, is to expose your children to a rich environment. Neuroscientists have a saying, you are what you experience. So we learn through our senses. All the information that comes to our brain is through what we see, what we hear, what we smell, touch, taste. And the more senses we use, the more information we give the brain to work with. Reading alone is just using your sense of sight. And reading has a lot of abstract skills that you need to apply. And this is very tedious for the brain. So we have to try and use more than just reading. Just have a look at this experiment. This is an experiment they did on mice. They had 2 cages, and they exposed one set of mice to nothing. They didn't have any. They had a very poor environment for learning, and the other mice had a rich environment. They had toys and things to play with the whole time. Then they studied their brains, and they saw a big difference between the 2 brains. Physically, these brains were heavier than these brains here. These mice were able to solve problems much faster and more effectively than these mice. And if you have a look at their neurons, and this is very key. These neurons here don't have a lot of branches, so it's a very weak memory formed here. But these neurons here have a lot of branches, so it's a strong memory, and the branches are also thicker. That also has a significance. And I'm going to talk about the amount of branches and the thickness of the branches. Your strategy for learning has to be based on this. Okay. So the best way of learning is called experiential learning. It means we have to involve as many senses as possible. So this is a picture I got from the internet. This is not my daughter. She looks about 6, 7 years old, and she's learning about an animal cell. And if you look at this theory, what she's really learning is based on grade 11 and grade 12 biology. She doesn't know that. She's just building a cell and learning about it, and she's experiencing it. But because we're using all our senses and we're using a neural network that she understands, she can learn really difficult concepts at a very young age. Now, many people, let's go back to this picture, will say, wait till your child is older. Don't start educating too soon. And I would like to disagree about this. I think they put that theory on based on reading textbooks, and that I agree with. Do not read lots and lots of textbooks at a young age. They won't understand it and they will find it boring. But if you start from a young age, your children have a secure network of knowledge which they can build more knowledge on. How the brain works when it comes to learning is let me just see if I can find this picture. Okay. What the brain does, it attaches new information to its existing knowledge. For example, if we talk about the cell, we would use sweets and things children understand, like jelly, for plasma, to build a model. And because I understand these everyday objects, they can add new concepts and say, okay, jelly is like plasma. Plasma is your new concept and jelly is what you already know. So you have your existing database and then you add new information to it. The day you understand the cell means then you can move on and add more information to that. When people don't understand, when your child doesn't understand what you're talking about, it means you're not meeting them at their internal network. It's like if a programmer starts talking to you and he uses these big words and you just don't know what he's saying. You could actually have understood what he said if he just used normal English words. But because he's using words you can't relate with, you cannot understand what he's saying. So that's exactly the problem that children have is when you're sitting in a classroom, sometimes teachers don't know what internal network a child has. And then when they start talking, they talk in this detail, and the children don't have this basis to work from, and all these twigs start falling off. They cannot add this information to the internal network, and then they switch off, and then they don't learn effectively. And then they start getting behind. If you are involved, then you know what your child's internal network is, and then you can know what you can add and what you cannot add. And I like using, like I said, everyday objects because that is a very strong neural network that we have. We know how balls work, we know how chairs work, so very often I use everyday objects to encourage children to build models of things they don't understand. I keep on using the example of the cell, but if you can learn about an atom by building things, and you can learn about, say, kinetic molecular theory. That's a big word, but you can learn kinetic molecular theory by throwing balls around. If children can see that this is how a concept works, but I can use balls as an analogy. It's a lot easier for them to learn abstract concepts. Once they understand how an atom works, that becomes their new internal network. And then when we talk about atomic physics, then we can easily add information onto that. And if we talk about ions in chemistry, you can add that because they already understand how an atom works. And the wonderful thing about having a network like this is the more branches you have, the more space there is for more branches to grow. And this brings us to this principle that knowledge builds upon knowledge. The more your child knows, the more he has a capacity to learn. And this is how you improve a child's IQ, is by giving them a deep understanding of certain subjects on a level they can understand. You're creating space for more information to hook onto what they already understand. Okay. So, like I said, the traditional way of learning is to use textbooks, but reading is a great skill, but it's a very labor-intensive skill to learn, and it takes a lot of brain power. So if we combine this abstract skill with trying to understand an abstract subject such as math or chemistry or physics, then it's very tedious and it's a slow process for children to learn. What we have to do is we have to take away this heavy load of reading and find other ways of teaching children difficult concepts. So asking your child to read a textbook and trying to understand an abstract concept is like asking them to run with a heavy rucksack on their back. So if we can remove the rucksack, and that is just reading textbooks, and we can give them other skills to learn different concepts, and we can, with our day and age, this is possible, then they can learn a lot faster and more efficiently. We have the internet, we have YouTube clips, we have something called living books, which is different to textbooks. It makes learning a lot more fun and more relatable to children. Some homeschoolers may be familiar with using these books. These are DK books. I'm trying to, can you see? This is a lot more interesting than the boring textbooks we use. Okay. So we can use experiential learning, which means do more than just reading and writing. It doesn't mean do experiments. It means building models. It means discussing. It means making videos. It means making plays, actually just being fun and creative. I think of what you did in your primary school or even in your play school, and just use those techniques in high school as well. Children feel that they're too old for this, but actually this is the best and most fun way of learning. Okay. I quickly want to talk to you about creativity. Right, so Ken Robinson says you can be creative in anything, math, science, engineering, philosophy, as much as you can in music, or in painting, or in dance. We have been told by many theorists that you get something like a left brain and a right brain dominance. And actually what this theory says is some people are more creative than others. And with MRI scans, research has debunked this myth. They have you can search this on the internet, but they've scanned the brains and they say there is nothing like a dominance, a left brain or a right brain dominance. So, what does this mean? Well, we all have a need to be creative. There's something called Bloom's taxonomy, and the Bloom's taxonomy is just the different levels of thinking. And if you want real job satisfaction, you need to be creative in whatever you are doing. People who are going to enjoy their jobs, this is where creativity is, aren't functioning on this level. They're usually functioning on levels here. And this is boring, tedious work, and there's no enjoyment in it. So we want to help people learn to use different mediums to be creative on this level. And we are so used to being creative with art because it's easy to go through here. You have to go through these different levels before you can reach creativity. You need knowledge. You need to know, for example, with art, you need to know that you can mix different colors. And you need to understand that mixing red and yellow makes orange. And then you need to be able to apply this knowledge. You must say, okay, I want to paint a sun. If I want to paint a sunset, then I need to mix these colors to get this color here. And then you need to be able to analyze. I don't want to go into detail about this. And you need to synthesize. Synthesize means you must be able to put different concepts together. Analyze means it's like being able to teach. It means that you understand something so well you can break it up into simple concepts. You need to go through these steps before you can really be creative. And like I said, things like art is a lot easier to reach this level. And that's why so many people enjoy doing art and they enjoy music and sports. But other subjects like math and chemistry and physics, it's very difficult to get here. And the way we've been taught in the past is not very creative. We've been tested in this area here. And then it creates a really a dislike in these subjects. We need to move up to this level. Right. Something else I want to talk about, and this is going to help you with your strategy. If you're in a school, let me just bring this a bit closer. Just have a look here. Okay. When you're in school, you jump from one subject to the next. You have an hour and then you go and do a different subject. And what this does is it doesn't give you time to really think and understand something. To reach this level of creativity, you need time. You need to think about it. You need to discuss it. You need to build it. You need to explore concepts. And if you only do a subject for 15 minutes a day, you get stuck in this region here. And what happens is you form really weak memories. And then during the year, you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then at the end of the year, you've forgotten everything you've learned. And then you start again. And then you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and then at the end of the year you've forgotten everything you've learned and then you start again. So this is very ineffective, and this is where grades come from. It's, okay, we're doing grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each time we're repeating the same work and just building a bit more. So my suggestion to you, and this is what we did, and we had really excellent results from this, is to rather take a subject from grade 1 right up to grade 12, but I actually would like to encourage you not to think in grades. Rather think we have to master a concept, and we're going to use our logic, because the moment you start thinking grades, you're going to start thinking, oh, I'm going to form gaps. What if I'm making a mistake? You know what, you're going to make mistakes, and that's fine because the brain is plastic, and learning in this way, you have a lot of time to fix your mistakes and explore. And actually, learning is about fixing gaps and changing your mindset. The moment you don't have any gaps anymore is the day that you can get 100% for an exam. So you will have gaps the whole time, and your idea is to find out where the gaps are and try and change those fields where you have gaps. When we say someone is good in math, it means they have a strong neural network in math. When we say someone is good in science, we say they have a strong neural network in science. So if you're bad at something, it means you have weakly formed dendrites. This doesn't mean that you can never learn anything. It just means we have to grow the neural network. And you, as a parent, need to be like a detective. You have to look for gaps, and then you have to look for ways of how you can grow these branches and improve your child's current knowledge about a subject. The thing is, nothing is fixed. You can always change your knowledge about math. You can always change your knowledge about history or writing. And it has to do with how strong your neural network is. So, if we can focus on a subject in a day, we can take it from not understanding anything at all and work it right through to up to a level of grade 11. Without forming gaps, you can explore and discuss. And we don't need to do grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. You can actually throw that away in the dustbin and just say, what do I need for grade 11? Let us explore until we understand it up to that level. You don't need to know the subject at all. If you can read with understanding, and you know how to search on Google, then you are way ahead of your child. You have a neural network that has been established over many years. All you need to do is read the pages beforehand and then translate what you understand, and then say, I don't understand this, let's go and watch videos, let's talk about it, and then you explore a concept until all of you feel you understand the work. Okay. So, now, when we homeschool, I'm going to talk about homeschooling because there you have a freedom of choice. We get different choices of how to educate our children. One way is to just explore different concepts in different areas, and then when you reach high school, suddenly you need a matric year. And we suddenly have to make a plan to reach it. Not everyone's goal is to get a matric, but we all have a goal. We want to go somewhere. We want to learn something. And it's better to know where you're going and plan according to it than going randomly left, right, and center. You can do that. It's just we can build a far more effective neural network if we have a plan, if we know we're doing this for a reason. It's also going to give your children a purpose. If they know this is what I'm going to do. I'm building my brain to strengthen my memories, to heighten my intelligence. Okay, so curriculum works like this. The curriculum tells you you can write these exams after 12 years, and they take you on a route. And the route can be effective or ineffective. It can go up or down, but it's not based on your child's current internal network. So you have to adapt a curriculum to adjust to what your child knows and understands. And sometimes a route might not be good for your child, and then you need to add more information to help your child build a strong network. So there's one other method. And the method is if you know where you're headed. If you know this is what we need to know, then we can make decisions based on this end goal here. And you can say, well, today we're going to do biology, and then we're going to take a detour, and then we're going to do something else. Because you can make your own route to getting here, because we can do this because of the internet and because of ease of access of information, which we couldn't do 30 years ago. We can do now. We can build our own curriculums, and we can make decisions that best for our children. There's a lot of information for free on the internet. You don't need to be an expert in anything. You just Google it, and you'll find someone who will explain the difficult concept for you and for your children. So if you have this framework, you can choose your own route, and you can adapt to your children's needs. Sometimes you're going to go slowly, they don't understand something, so you're going to linger longer, and sometimes they're going to be fast, and you're going to say, okay, let's go quicker. this is boring, let's move on, we understand this. And then you have the freedom to say, okay, we've had enough of biology and chemistry today, we're going to do something completely different, explore this and then go back and then we can go forward again. This is going to give you confidence. If you know where you're going, you can base all your decisions on this. You can, with confidence, tell people, well, we're doing grade 11, grade 12 work at our own pace. And because you know your child's neural network, you can fill in the gaps slowly at your pace and you will know they don't have gaps. So what is this framework? Well, it depends on the kind of exam you're going to write. So I can only talk about Cambridge. I don't know any other exams. And Cambridge is a nice exam, and most people are really impressed if you've done it. So it opens a lot of doors, and it's not difficult. People are so scared of it. They're scared of it because they base their learning on rote learning and not understanding. In Cambridge, if you base your learning on rote learning, you're going to get 25%. If you base it on understanding, you can get really good marks. And this is great. This is why I like Cambridge. It's based on understanding, so we don't have to work through textbooks. We don't have to answer questions. We just have to say, do I understand this work, that I can relate to it? Does it make sense to me? And we carry on exploring a subject till we understand it. All right, so what Cambridge has on their website, let me quickly write it down. They have a framework. They actually didn't plan this for homeschoolers, but it's a really nice tool to use. The website is cie.org.uk, and here you can download a syllabi. Right, there are about 70 subjects, and you have to choose which subjects are important to you. By using this approach, I would rather focus on the concrete subjects, or concrete subjects are their biology, geography, history, business studies. What do I mean by concrete subjects? Well, I mean it's very much what you see is what you see is what you get. It's a lot easier to learn these subjects than the abstract subjects. So your abstract subjects, I'm going to write them down just now. It's more of a challenge. So to grow into building a neural network, I would start with these subjects. It's easier for you to handle. You can say, let's go and study the heart, and then you can build it. And then you can think about how the heart works and discuss it. Once you've mastered the way of learning this way, then you can move on to the more abstract subjects. Alright? And the abstract subjects are it's physics and chemistry. So you will see I haven't mentioned math or English, as I feel it's very difficult to plan everything. I would try and get a nice program for these two, and let your children work on their own, well, not on their own, work dedicated on these subjects. At this stage, don't take full responsibility for this just yet. I can give a talk on this later. For the moment, I would get a good program and use the program here. But I would then do physics and chemistry in this way that I'm talking to you now, after you've approached the concrete subjects. Okay. So, what do you want to build? You want to build two things, right? You want to build connections between concepts, right? So you're learning about different concepts and you want to find links between them. The more connections you make, the more you heighten the child's intelligence. And then you want to strengthen these connections. And you do this by repetition. Repetition doesn't mean saying the same thing over and over again. That's extremely boring. Why do we want to do that? So we're going back to the theory of the brain. Someone that's been exposed to a rich environment has more connections and they have thicker branches. This is like if you think of traffic. If you are in a traffic jam, the best way of getting out of the traffic jam is to find alternative routes. It's like if you're trying to solve a problem and you're stuck, you want to use your other fields to help you try and solve a problem. For example, I do art and I have an engineering background. When I'm stuck with a scientific problem, then I use my knowledge of art to try and solve the problem. Or I use my knowledge of what we learned in biology to try and solve the problem. So we cannot access different routes if it's not in our internal network. The more concepts you have in your mind and the more it's been practiced to make links between the different concepts, the easier you're going to help your child to solve problems. We are giving them skills to be great problem solvers, as the careers of the future requires people to be innovative, and we have to empower our kids to be innovative. So the one thing is you have to establish a lot of concepts in their minds so they have tools to work with to solve problems. The other thing that you need to do is you need to strengthen these connections. And like I said, you need to do it through repetition. Why do we do that? Well, the thicker a branch is, the faster the brain can access information, the faster they can solve problems. It's like riding a car. Riding a car has a very strong neural network. We do it every day, so the branches are really thick. So we can do it without thinking. We can do it automatically. And people are really good at something, have really strong networks, and they do things naturally. It doesn't look like they're struggling. If you're learning something new, then it's hard work. You have to activate a lot of neurons to get something done. The moment you're well practiced in something, then the brain becomes efficient and you build stronger networks between concepts, and then you can do things far more faster and efficiently and creatively. So how do we do this? Well, we explore concepts in different ways. We can read a concept in a book, right? You can talk to your children. So you read this in a book, then you can encourage your children to talk about what they learned. Then you can go and watch a video. So that's your third repetition. Okay, turn this in here. That's your third repetition. Then you can say, let's build a model about it. And then you can encourage them to write what they learned. You can teach them to make a mind map about it, and then in the end, you can ask them questions and they can answer it. So we've covered the same subject 7 times, but we haven't repeated like a parrot. We've just applied the knowledge in different ways, and doing this builds really strong memories. So, what network are we going to use? Well, if you're going to write Cambridge, you first have to decide what your end goal is. My end goal was Cambridge. They have a fantastic syllabus, and the syllabus, what I like about this syllabus is they've already established what's your main idea and what's your supporting ideas. For example, they will say, let me write this down here. If you decide to do biology, they will say, okay, you are going to do anatomy, and then you need to know about the circulatory system, the digestive system, the integumentary system, the skeletal system, for example. Then, when you look on this list here, you will see, okay, I need to learn about the heart. So that is one concept here. And I need to learn about blood. That's one concept here. And I need to learn about vessels. And then you go into detail, and then you see, what do I need to know about vessels? And then I need to know about arteries, I need to know about veins, I need to know about capillaries. What do I need to know about capillaries? Well, I need to know they're one cell thick and so on and so on. So you can add more and more branches. Now everyone, irrespective of a child's age, needs to go through this from a base and adding branches. This means that you can involve all your children at one time, and you explore with them these concepts. And the difference between a young child and an old child is just how far in detail you go. So a younger child, you will say, okay, I think you've had enough now, let's stop here. And with an older child, you will go into more detail. And then you just decide up to what level. And the detail is given here. This is grade 11 work, and this is approachable. Like I said, that 7-year-old girl did grade 11 work, even though she didn't realize it. What I would do is not just stick to the syllabus, because I find it very poor. I just want to show you the difference of what we did with the syllabus and what we did without the syllabus. So we also learned about veins and capillaries, and I did this with my children when they were really young, when they were 7, 8, 9 years old. And then we repeated the theory again when they were 14. And this is a lot more complicated than what they had to learn for IGCSEs here. Okay. So by exploring a bit further you're adding more neural networks. So this is your base of what the syllabus says, but then you add more detail as you see fit. What this does is it builds stronger memories. By using a framework, you know you're going somewhere, you have a tick list. It's going to take your fear of insecurities away. You can tick it off and say, well, we're working towards ICSI, and we know we're at least covering certain subjects, but we have the freedom to choose our own route, and we have the freedom to decide how quickly you want to go through something and how much detail. If you're running out of time, then you have less. Then you have less detail. And if you have enough time, then you add more detail. The sooner you start, the more time you have. The longer you wait, the more you're going to run out of time and the more stressful it will be. And I really recommend that you walk this road with your child. It's okay if you don't understand the work. Because the moment you understand something, then I struggle with this, is then I take too big a leaps between concepts because I think I forget how difficult it was to learn something, and then I lose children along the way. The fact that you don't know something means your child also doesn't know it, and if you're struggling with something, it means your child is also struggling with it. So it's better to walk alongside your child and struggle with your child than be someone who stands in front and says, oh, it's easy, just learn it like this. That demotivates them. If they see you're giving your best and you're working through a problem, you're giving them a lot of life skills to survive life in future. You're teaching them you're not afraid of facing things you don't understand. You're teaching them ways to find solutions, to solve problems. And if you have a plan of action, this is where my end goal is, you can achieve great results. This is a really fun and exciting journey. If you learn in a brain-friendly way like this, then learning is really enjoyable. You will have your down days and you are going to make mistakes. The day my daughter wrote AS Physics, she asked me a question and I gave her an answer. She said it didn't make any sense. And I thought, well, I studied engineering, it must be this way. And then my son, who's 16, got onto Google and then he Googled the question and he said, listen, you're wrong. And my whole system was shook. It frustrated me because I felt, I'm sure I knew this work and now I've been proved wrong. So you're going to be constantly confronted with things that you assume you're right and it's wrong. And it's a very discomforting feeling. But break through that feeling and say, well, we're learning. It's uncomfortable for the brain, but we can break through this. If your child understands how the brain works and he knows, I'm struggling with this subject because I don't have a neural network, it will give him hope because you can teach him we just have to work on this and spend time on this and we will succeed. This is for me, something that gives a lot of hope. And I hope this is going to help you help your children build their confidence and their intelligence.